We're continuing with the Quran reading, my New English translation, chapter 02, the account of the Heifer of Israel. Today we're reading verses 55 to 66. And there was that time when you said to Moses, when we see with our naked eyes the Lord your God, Allah, the one whom you claim to be the absolute spirit in control of existence, we will put our faith and trust in you. Until then, we cannot trust you. The response to your request came in the form of a majestic lightning that consumed your corrupt soul while you looked on with your naked eyes. After the death of your nation's soul, we brought it back with a new life when we raised a generation of new people. We did all this so you would learn to have a sense of gratitude and to show us your appreciation. We sent the clouds to give you a shade from the scorching sun of the desert. We rained down from heaven manna bread and quails for you. Consume the healthy sustenance from the abundance of our providence. It was not us that they had wronged by their sin. They were rather unjust to their own soul. They had invited the forces of darkness to rule over their nation. And then we sent our word telling them, now you may enter that country that is well known in your world for its deep-rooted civilization. Take your pleasure in the abundance of its providence and eat whatever your heart may desire. But as you go through its gate, go down on your knees and prostrate yourselves in obeisance. Proclaim that you will lay down your arms in peace and that you will unload the heavy weight of guilt which you had been carrying on your shoulders. In return, we are prepared to forgive the sins that you had committed in the past, and to greatly enrich those of you that perform deeds that are good in the eyes of their Lord. The sinful oppressors of the soul, though, intentionally distorted our commands and altered the import of our narrative. So we rained from heaven a plague that struck them down. They had falsified the truth and broke their vows, and they turned the blessing into a curse. Then there was that time when Moses sought to quench the thirst of his people. We sent our word to him to strike with his staff that hard rock. His nation's heart had hardened like stone. In the desert of sin, Moses did as he was told, and 12 springs erupted from the obstinate heart of that nation. Every tribe learned to drink, how to quench its thirst from its own fountain. From the abundance of God's providence you may eat and drink to your heart's content, but do not sow the seeds of hate in the soil, and do not contaminate the sinless soul. Remember that time when you said to Moses, we can no longer tolerate eating the same thing every day. So go to your Lord and petition him with your prayers to have the earth bear for us some of its delightful crops, like those green leaf herbs, the cucumbers, garlic, lentil, and onions. Moses replied, is it your intention to trade the ideals of the soul's heavenly ascendance, like liberty, for the desires of its earthly descending? You can have what you desire if you march back down to Egypt. Consequently, they were smitten by a long spell of spiritual poverty and degraded in the value of their human dignity. They were condemned to live in the shadow of the flame of God's anger. They disobeyed God's commands and rulings. They rejected his signs and refused to recognize his manifestations. They deserved what they got. The innocent blood of the prophets is on their hands. The prophets were killed unjustly, wantonly, and without being charged with a crime. The tribes had provoked God's anger by their disobedience and their warmongering. Now, any person, regardless of the name of his moral creed, whether he subscribes to Islam or had Judaized himself, or had become a Christian or a Sabian, if he believes if he believes in a one universal God for all people, the only spirit of connectivity of all things in existence, Allah, and believes in an end day, the inevitable coming of a day when his world would end, then that's all that counts, regardless of the label of the creed. When a person makes his faith meaningful through worthy deeds, and he earns an honest living doing a job that does not compromise the tenets of his creed, the fruits of the labors of such people, their rewards, will be waiting for them when they stand before their Lord. These people will come under our protection, and they will not lose any of their God-given rights ever again. As citizens of a nation of Islam, they will no longer be threatened by powerful warlords, and they need not worry about losing their rights to life, liberty, peace, the pursuit of their God-given purpose, and to ownership of their land and their destiny. When all of you stood at the foot of Mount Sinai and swore an oath to us to honor all the terms of the covenant, we believed you to be sincere. We put limits around the mountain and set it apart as holy, far above your reach. Take the word we handed you to heart and hold on to its spirit with all your might. Proclaim your vows to us. It may help prevent God's anger from burning against you. But in the period that followed, you were disobedient. You broke your vows. The Lord your God had given you one blessing after the other. If he had not favored you with his blessings and his compassion, you would have been relegated to the rank of failures. Later on, you were told who in your community had violated your Sabbath law. You knew the sinners were the high and mighty in your society. So we passed a divine ruling and sent our word to command itself on them. It devalued their human worth and dispossessed them of their dignity. So they slank with their hands over their heads like a drove of defeated monkeys. An example was made of that nation, how it was cut down and punished in the end. The example was provided to the nations of its present day, as well as to all those nations yet to come. Indeed, its punishment in the end provided a valuable lesson to all God-fearing people.